Hi, this is Cherie J. Wilson, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
The next edition of TV Confidential will premiere next week on this station at the usual time. Please join us as we welcome actress and author Denise Nicholas. In the meantime, Cherie J. Wilson mentioned the instrumental role she played in Chuck Norris hiring Michael Preece as the regular director on Walker, Texas Ranger, and how Michael stabilized production of Walker, Texas Ranger after the show got off to an inauspicious start. With that in mind, we thought we'd round out our program this week by playing a clip from a conversation that originally aired in 2012 with Michael Preece himself. Michael has worked with some of the biggest names in film and TV history, including John Wayne, Carl Malden, Spencer Tracy, Steve McQueen, Chuck Norris, and Larry Hagman. Michael, of course, we mentioned Walker, Texas Ranger a little while ago. I don't know whether you went directly from Dallas to Walker, but you ended up doing quite a few Walkers between 95 and 2000. One of my favorites was a show that Howard Keel did, and I believe Cathy Podewell did. It was called Blue Movies, and Howard played a JR type of character, and I can imagine Howard just must have relished playing a bad guy after so many years of playing Clayton.
Right, he loved it. There was not a coincidence that he was in. Leonard Katzman took over as the executive producer on Walker for a year, and so getting Cathy Podewell and Howard Keel, and Howard was great. Yeah, I remember him on the steps of the courthouse and everything, and he just loved it. I mean, he was in his, because he loved to be in front of an audience.
Yeah.
Anyway, and a lot of Walker was shot out on the streets around Dallas, and so they always had people watching us, and he loved it. And you suddenly hear him in the background singing, Oklahoma or something. And he was just doing it for 25 people standing there watching, and they he sang a little bit, but it was he was terrific.
Of course, Cherie J. Wilson was another Dallas connection. I understand she was one of the people who encouraged that they bring you on as a director on that show because she knew how efficiently you worked on Dallas. Yeah,
I stay in contact with Cherie. What happened is the first 4 episodes or whatever it was, they were going horrible hours, and she kept saying to Chuck Norris, you've got to get me down there. And so finally they gave me 1 episode, and I went down and started shooting, and I swear at lunchtime Chuck comes up to me and he said, do you want to direct every other episode? And I said, well, shouldn't you look at film first or something? And he said, no, I don't need to. And I ended up, I think close to 80 episodes I did of Walker. And it was just because I kind of knew what he's like. He's a bit of a man's man, and he liked the fact that we didn't fool around shooting it, and spend more time, trying to get a lot of coverage rather than making every take perfect. And so I get along with him. So it worked out very well for me.
Well, again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. I mean, you've always had this disposition, whether in film, but especially in television. You knew how to adapt to the circumstances of the show and the circumstances of the lead star, whether it's a Larry Hagman, whether it's a Carl Malden, whether it's a Chuck Norris, and that's one of the reasons why you not only were a successful a television director, but you've worked as long as you have, because people know you're good.
Yeah, no, I don't. It's difficult to say, well, I'm good at it, but I know what I'm doing when I'm directing, and I think, as Peckinpah said, and some others, that casting is having a good story, and then casting is the most important thing, because if you get a John Wayne in the movie, you're not going to make him much better by making him do 50 takes or something.
We've been talking about your work on Dallas, in Streets and Walker. Those are all dramatic shows. You have directed some comedy, including a film with Tim Conway, Don Knotts, and David Wayne called The Prize Fighter. Any memories from that experience?
Yeah, I had been working with a production manager on Barnaby Jones for Quinn Martin, and he had signed to be a production manager on this The Prize Fighter, and the director got a better job, so they lost their director, and he said, I know a guy. So I went over and met with Tim Conway in a hotel in Los Angeles, and he hired me. No, they did. And so we went down to Georgia, and I had never done any comedy. I'd done funny scenes, but not comedy. And the first thing we shot with Tim, I said, oh, my God, that's what this is about. Now I understand. I mean, he was a goofy guy. And, I got along very well. The picture turned out pretty darn good for a very short shooting period. It was a very good experience. And I went on and did a series with Tim Conway called Ace Crawford, which very, very few people have heard of.
I remember that show.
It had a thing. It came out the same day as George Papard and
the A-Team.
The A-Team,
yeah.
And so it didn't do well in the ratings, and it was quickly gone. But it was Ace Crawford, and then Tim and I have tried to do, or we did, lots of shows together, but he just didn't work out. Because he wrote The Prize Fighter, too, and a guy named John Myers.
Only got a couple of minutes left, Michael.
Okay.
You've done so many things, you both as a script supervisor, as a director in film and in television. If you had to pick one show or one film as your favorite experience, what would that be?
Well, I would say probably Dallas, but I don't want to... I enjoyed myself very much on a series I did, MacGyver. It was a real challenge. It was the hardest I've ever had to work because it was very difficult circumstances in Vancouver, raining and cold and everything. But I would say the three that stand out in my mind most are Dallas and MacGyver and Walker.
Well, plus on MacGyver, you had to do all those sequences where he had to improvise and figure out how to make a bomb out of toilet paper and whatever he had at his disposal.
Fertilizer, yeah. They would always leave out one ingredient. Otherwise, all those things would be a bomb. But they'd leave out an ingredient so kids didn't do it at home.
Director Michael Preece from a conversation that originally aired in 2012 here on TV Confidential. Michael Preece directed more episodes of Dallas than any other director. He was also the regular director on Walker, Texas Ranger, starring Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris passed away Friday, March 20th, at the age of 86. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode.
Hi, this is Mary Ann Hartley, and you are listening to TV Confidential.
Sometimes things must get worse before they get better.
We have about a minute left this week, enough time to tell you that if you're a fan of actors Ray McKinnon and Walton Goggins, our friends at Lightyear Entertainment have just released a pair of award-winning Southern comedies from the Academy Award-winning actors, both of which are newly restored from original film elements and available on Blu-ray for the very first time. That would be Randy and the Mob and the Academy Award-winning short film The Accountant, both of which are available on Blu-ray right now wherever Blu-rays are sold. Friends since meeting on the 1990 NBC television film Murder in Mississippi, both Ray McKinnon and Walton Goggins, along with McKinnon's wife, the late Lisa Blount, forged one of independent cinema's most distinctive creative partnerships. Their collaboration yielded two enduring cult favorites, 2002 Academy Award-winning short film The Accountant and the 2007 big-hearted screwball Southern comedy Randy and the Mob. Both Randy and the Mob and The Accountant are available now on Blu-ray through our friends at Lightyear Entertainment in special collector's edition packages. Though each title will be available individually, the Blu-ray package for Randy and the Mob features more than 60 minutes of bonus material, including The Accountant in its entirety. Both The Accountant and Randy and the Mob available individually on Blu-ray through our friends at Lightyear Entertainment, lightyearentertainment.com, wherever else Blu-rays are sold. Ed Robertson, Dr. Tony Figueroa, Donna Allen, Phil Grace, and Susan Silver. Thank you so much for listening. Stay healthy, stay safe. Talk to you next time on TV Confidential.